Thank you very much. Nice to be here. First and foremost, I would like to thank Shino, Fountain of Love, the Creed, for the opportunity. So, well, I didn't know. It looks like a lot of things are done via presentation nowadays. So I didn't prepare a presentation, but Lulia told me I was coming to make a speech. I don't know what that means. But I'll try my best. I'm not a man of so many words, so bear with me if I don't have some of the demagogical skills. But I hope I'll be able to
I don't even understand his
pass a lot of knowledge and few nuggets around. I'm sincerely hopeful that what I share here today will benefit everybody, including myself, most importantly. I reckon the audience here today can be categorized into two. Business owners or would-be business owners, right? And investors or would-be investors. So I'm going to take this topic from that two sides of the spectrum. The first side of the spectrum is addressing those that would be business owners and also the investors. And what I've been given, I'm sure it aligns with what you're expecting, is spotting innovative businesses, opportunities, and parameters utilized by investors in making investment decisions. Innovation sits in the heart of everything, right? And first and foremost, I want to get a white elephant out of the room. The whole idea is to communicate the understanding that there's a difference between an innovative idea and an innovative business. The two words are used, they confuse them, and it passes the wrong message across. An innovative idea, it's an idea, right? A business, an innovative business is an idea that has metamorphosized into a commercial venture. That is currently solving a need, right? And in return has the potential of generating revenues, right? Or is already generating revenues no matter how small. So most of the time, someone comes to me, walks up, sir, I hear you're an early stage investor. I have an innovative business I want you to invest in. I said, okay, what's your business? He doesn't have a business, but he has an idea, right? I'm thinking, okay, so what have you done? Where's your minimum viable product, right? How many have you sold? How many customers have you acquired? Those questions cannot be answered, so it's definitely an idea. So what is important is, first and foremost, for founders to understand that as the first point of call, moving from having an innovative idea, right, transiting it into an innovative business. That's the first point of call. Now, the problem most founders have is the ability to ascertain in the truest of terms, right, whether the idea is innovative as a starting point, right? So you have an idea, you need to be clear whether it's innovative or not, right? But most importantly, transiting it from an idea into a business. At the heart of innovation is need. What problem or what need are you solving? Do you have new ways of solving a particular problem, or you have other ways new ways of solving a problem that has already been solved? So first and foremost, this is a problem. I have an innovative way of solving it. Now, this is a problem. Somebody is already solving that problem, but I have a better way that problem can be solved. That is the heart of innovation. At the end of the day, Uber, right? I want to travel, I want to move, but I have to call a cab, I have to use Addison Lee, I have to go black cab, right? There's a need. How can I basically order a car and I don't have to pay with cash? I can order from anywhere, right? But I just have an app, right? So that's basically an example of an innovation, an innovative idea turned into an innovative business. Innovation is a key driver of economic growth and generation of value. Now, I'm using the word value meticulously because I'm not using the word money. Most of the time, right, money, yes, money, but I like to use the word value because it's value that turns into money, right? Money is the medium of exchanging value. So when you generate value, it's just a matter of time, right? You generate money. Uber raised about $3 billion and their revenues were short of $100 million US. So they were not generating money, but there was a lot of value. There was a lot of latent value. Data in itself is value, right? So focusing on the value as well. Businesses that can identify and capitalize on innovative opportunities have the potential to achieve significant success. However, spotting innovative business opportunities is not always an easy task. It requires a combination of creativity, market knowledge, and strategic thinking. Investors play a very critical role in identifying and supporting innovative businesses, and investors look for parameters when making investment decisions. Understanding these parameters helps businesses increase their chances of securing funding. I say to a lot of founders, there are some people that the only thing they do is invest, right? So when you have an idea and you say you are looking for investors, there's something wrong in the sense that investors actually should be looking for you. Do you understand? Most investors are looking for where to put in money, not even in these extremely capitalized markets that we have. A lot of billions, trillions are sitting and they don't have anywhere to go, right? But you need to work on your idea, you need to work on your team so that you can attract investors. When you see somebody desperate for investors, right, there is something fundamentally not right? You are not prepared enough most of the time. And no investor is really going to tell you this. So let me start by talking about, like I said, there are two sides of the coin today. There's the investor side and there's also the founder side. So I will start by talking about, sorry, can somebody prepare the chalkboard for me? I'll start by taking the angle of the investor, then I'll now move to the founder. Thank you very much, sir. So I'm going to be sharing a very, very basic, like I said, I'm not somebody I'm not a man of so many words, but I'll try. I'm going to share a very basic framework, just to illustrate. Okay. So the entire business ecosystem is divided into three currently: technology, markets, and organization. This technology, markets, I forgot, I don't have a good handwriting as well. So just, in case you can't read it, let me know. All right, then organization. Right. This sits in the art of creativity, innovation, your product. Right? This is your market. At the end of the day, the consumer, your competitor, that's where your money is. Right? You are selling a product, somebody must pay for it. So the market is a very, very critical component. This is the market. Now, the organization is you, yourself, the vision bearer, your team, right? How many what's the quality of talent that you have, how experienced that they are, exposed that they. Now, the intersection of these three, so these three components makes the entire ecosystem. Obviously, this can be broken down into like 50 different components: organization, right? The whole MBA bullshit, your team, yada yada yada, markets. That's marketing, consumer-driven. I mean, like 10,000 books in each of these, right? But at the end of the day, each of them is their own individual ecosystem that falls within the entire ecosystem. But you see, the intersection of these three, which is this is where value is. This is where money is. So this is where your value is. This is where, do you understand? So you have fantastic, innovative idea. Before Facebook, I don't know, I mean, I'm not very old, but does anyone here know i5? Did you remember i5? Yeah. Oh, you remember i5? Okay, that means you are quite old, yeah. So i5 actually came before Facebook. i5 came before Facebook, and it's basically the same thing, right? Well, there's no i5 today, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Good. I mean, let's go back home. Before Dangote Cement, there was Ibeto Cement. Right, and as a matter of, so I consulted for Dangote Cement, I also consulted for Ibeto Cement. Ibeto actually has a higher quality of cement than Dangote. In terms of the raw product itself, it was actually better. You couldn't even compare. Right, but nobody knows where Ibeto is today, right? Obviously, that's more of political reasons. But there are several technologies. But if the interplay with these two is wrong, a bad team, a bad organization, misplaced context, it won't generate value, right? So we don't know where I-5 is now. Right? Now you have markets. Some products will work in the US, will work in the UK. It's not going to work in Nigeria, no matter what you do. There are some products that will work in Nigeria, but when you get there, it's not going to work. There are several things like internet penetration, the level of consumers, right? Affordability, disposable income, competition, right? All this constitutes this, right? Then your team. If you have a silly founder that is too arrogant, that doesn't understand the interplay of several forces, a good technology, fantastic market, but it's going to be stunted growth, right? Because you can only go as far as your team. So don't let me dwell too much on this so that I won't take a lot of time like cereal. But at the end of the day, I hope I've been able to. I hope I've been able to.
You're starting a civil war.
I hope I've been able to dwell on that. So that's the TMO framework. Trust me, what you just saw is like 2 million slides, but I just try to simplify it so that you have a very broad helicopter idea of what the ecosystem looks like. Now, a key component in any business and any business ecosystem is the market. The market comprises of consumers. They are the custodians of revenue. That's where the money is coming from. Your competitors are either reducing from you, right, or you are reducing from them. So they are affecting you, whether you like it or not. So they are part of the market. How many people use the same product? So if 10 people are meant to be buying my product, if I have competition, maybe I'll be getting 5 to 7 people. That's the market. One of the first steps in spotting innovative businesses is to conduct a thorough analysis of the market, right? The Bible says that my people perish for what? Lack of knowledge. It didn't say lack of money. And it didn't say lack of ideas, lack of knowledge. A thorough understanding of your market, trust me, saves you a lot. It either helps you to make a lot more than you have ordinarily made, or helps you in saving a lot. And most founders, right, that's the gap between a founder and an investor. Most of the time, the investor understands the market because he sees several opportunities, he's probably more experienced. But founders lack a bit of that. So what would distinguish a founder in attracting funding is also, first and foremost, understanding the market, but also ability to communicate that you understand your business. For example, somebody walks up to me and says he wants me to invest in his real estate company. And I just ask some basic demographic questions. Right? What's the population of everybody in Aberdeen? Give me an estimate. I think 3 million. That's wrong. Right? But when somebody says that, well, it depends on your demographic. If it is retired people, we have about 400,000 retired people. We have about 300,000 students. We have about 250,000 middle-aged working people. A lot of people stay in the city center, whereas there's about 20% staying in Aberdeenshire. So when I'm talking to a founder like that, I understand that he knows his market. So it gives credibility to what he's saying as a starting point, right? Make no mistakes, it's a gamble, right? An investor is a gambler. You are making a bet. Nobody sees a crystal ball, right? So it's fantastic. It's the next thing after Facebook. It's going to be richer than Amazon. Everybody will say that. At the end of the day, when you put in your coins, you are just hoping that the market forces favors you. So the least you want to afford the investor is that, okay, even if I'm making a gamble, it's a calculated gamble, right? I'm gambling on somebody that, nobody will get into a car and blindfold himself and expects not to have an accident. Hell no, right? But me being able to move from point A, but that's not it. Except to see self-driving cars. So ability to communicate that as a founder, right, sets you apart. Founders also need to understand that investors, right, take risk, right? And one thing is, most founders, try to make the investor feel that there is no risk in the investment. That's a lie. The investor knows that there is a risk. But what the investor wants to see is that it's a calculated risk, right? And I'm betting on the right horse. It's a calculated risk, right? So I'm betting on the right person. I invested in a company 5 years ago, and I think 3 years later, the guy took a job in GTB, abandoned the business and took a job in GTB, right? So, those are the kind of experiences that investors don't want to see. So, I would move to the founders, right? And also as founders, there are some things that you should look out for in an investor that are red flags. But also, I should also share what the green flags are, right? As a founder, it's not every investor that you want to sign on. There are some investors that you sign on and that's potentially the end of your business, right? And I don't know how many founders we have here, but I think it's worth sharing this. Before I move to that, I think I skipped something. That's why it's always good to have an outline. Specifically, there are some attributes that sets you apart as a founder. Vision is one of them, right? Having a clear vision on the need you are trying to solve and what you want to do. Experience. Now, the experience bit, I'll be very careful because sometimes people don't have experience in new things. But even if you don't have experience in the new thing you're trying to do, have experience in other things that complement what you're trying to do. Have you worked in an organization before? If you have not worked in an organization before, are you properly trained? Right? Do you have leadership courses? Right? Okay, your social engagements, your volunteering. What have you done in church? What have you done for community service? These ancillary experiences show up your position as a founder. Adaptability, the ability to be able to adapt. Right? You need to be dynamic. It's something I had to learn the hard way. Some people are just naturally rigid. It's only the way they think it is and the way it has been done 10 years ago that still has to be done now. No, that's not a very attractive. Your team, you're only as good as the quality of people you have around you. The market opportunity, which I've spoken about earlier on, and traction, right? You need to be able to communicate that I've moved from point A to point B. 1 year ago, I had 10 customers or 10 consumers. Now I have 50. With this new investment you want to put into the business, we are looking to scale up to 500 and 1,000 consumers over the next 2 to 3 years. The growth is not about the growth, it's not about the story, right? More than even the speed. Trust and integrity. I would like to think that that's already given where we are. And this is a very, very important bit because at the end of the day, the investor is taking a bet on the founder. If you don't have the right trust, if you don't have the right integrity, no matter how much you even make, you might not get to the investor. Then everybody lands paying a lot of money for lawyers for doing nothing. So trust and integrity is a very critical element. Now, as a founder, what you should run away from when you see an investor is first and foremost, don't sign on an investor that doesn't align with your vision and your goals for the company. Lack of alignment is a landmine. It's difficult because there will definitely be conflict in the future. Imagine me wanting to go to Dundee and my investor wants to go to Edinburgh, right? So if the ships are not sailing in the right direction, I mean, I would say I've put in money, you will say you've put in time, and the cookie begins to crumble. So lack of alignment is a red flag. Investors that like control of the business, right? You want to invest, but you're already talking 70%, right? Those are also investors that you should shy away from as a founder, because that is a telltale sign that you are not going to have the right direction for the business. There's a difference between an investor and a vision bearer. The person bearing the vision that understands where the need the company is solving is the founder, and that position cannot be negotiated. However, you need investors. So it's about trying to get an investor that allows you to express yourself within defined guidelines, right? But also helps to support the business. Short-term mindset. When you see an investor that is already talking, how much am I going to make back in the next 1 year, right? As a founder, those are not the kind of investors you want to sign on, right? Because in the next 1 year, we could run into COVID. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anything can happen, right? Yeah. So short-term mindset. I think it's more a mindset of this thing you're doing is innovative, it's going to change the world. How do we get this thing to China? How do we get this thing to India? How do we make this a global company? Because if it is about the company, right, once the company grows, right, definitely the investor will make way more money and the founder is also going to be fulfilled. Lack of transparency, right? When you can't ask your investor a simple question and you get a very simple answer, those are red flags. Those are telltale signs, right? Because someone that is not transparent cannot be honest. And someone that is not honest lacks integrity, right? And you don't want those kind of people associated with you because it also damages the brand. Now, on the flip side, as a founder, I would also express the things that you should look out for, things that you should like and admire, right? Because if you have a good idea and you have like 4 or 5 investors lined up, maybe one is offering £500,000, the other one is offering 250 or 300. It's not also all about money. There are some other things that sometimes are as important, if not more important than money as it were. And those are the example of things. I'll give like 5. So for these things I'm giving, there are way more, but I've just tried to, for the audience, I've tried to select it 5 each. When you're looking to sign on an investor, get an investor that is loyal to the ecosystem. In the sense that if you have a venture capitalist that wants to put funds in your company, check, how many people know him as an investor, how many companies has he invested in, right? Is he a go-to person in the ecosystem? Is he building the ecosystem? Or is there somebody that just wants to move money and make 8 times multiple or 10 times multiple? Loyalty to the ecosystem communicates integrity, right? It communicates knowledge, it communicates influence. And those are intangibles that would help your company as a founder. Because, as a founder, you will run into bottlenecks. You need somebody that you can call that obviously knows a lot of key participants in the ecosystem that can help you fix that problem.
So good question. What are you calling the ecosystem?
Good. I like to use examples. So let's use Aberdeen. Unfortunately, for example, Aberdeen, yes, excellent. I think Aberdeen is a good example. It's an oil and gas city, right? So there's an oil and gas ecosystem, right? So let's say I'm setting up a oil and gas technology-driven company. Maybe one technology like that makes you drill more oil, or just funny things. Felix does it, they can use. And I'm setting up this company as a founder, right? And I want to get investors, right? So I would look for an investor that I call somebody in Baker Hughes, in Schlumberger, in Subsea 7, what names of all those big. I'm new in Aberdeen, so I don't know a lot of those companies. But that's part of the ecosystem. Now, somebody that is known in the venture capital or in private equity space in Aberdeen, right? So the ecosystem is, Aberdeen is oil and gas, so oil and gas, private equity, maybe a few asset managers, some banks, right? Maybe somebody that's maybe politically, has some dinners in some key strategic places, right? So it's somebody that at least the entire ecosystem, what makes the universe of business in your sector move. That's what I call the ecosystem. And it's different. You notice I was thinking to understand the Aberdeen ecosystem. In Lagos, it's definitely a different ecosystem. You'll be talking Ashiwaju and many other things. In somewhere like Cambridge, is a science, hub, is a tech hub for Europe. So you're talking more of technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, life sciences, biomedicals. So that's the ecosystem. Then Cambridge is a university city. So you also need somebody that is close to some professors, right, in their management, in their business. So there's something called ecosystem stakeholder mapping. That's another 20 million slides. That's another kettle of fish as well. Yeah, but I hope I've been able to communicate that. Passion for growing companies, right? You should look for an investor that has a passion for growing companies. Right? So it's about the company. It's about the company. I cannot overemphasize that. It's not about the person. It's not about the money. It's not about the returns as it were. Obviously, nobody wants to lose value, but the primary focus, right, should be about growing the company. Because when you grow the company, that's when you generate value. And it's when you generate value that you can see your returns, both as a founder and also as an investor. Empathy for entrepreneurs, right? Empathy in the sense that get an investor that even cares about how you are as a person, right? If you're married, hello, how are you? How's your wife? Do you understand? Empathy, social skills. Because what you need to look out for is even you as a founder, you have your needs that are different from the company. And if you are not well mentally, it's going to affect the business. So when you have an investor that is contributing to your problem, right, that's not a very good place to be, right? So it's also good to have an investor that has empathy for the entrepreneur or for entrepreneurs. Focus on direction and context rather than speed. There's a popular saying that no matter how fast you are moving in the wrong direction, you can never get to where you're going, right? So, you have these investors that want, okay, I have this, I want to close in 2 days. Or the founder is saying that I need $200,000, I need it in the next 2-3 days, right? That is not the right place to be. There's a place for making fast deals, but that's not priority. It's more about direction. Okay, have we decided to work together? Fine. So we're working together. What do we intend to achieve together? We want to build a company, Annabelle, that does native for the entire Scotland over the next 6 months to 1 year. Okay, do you like that? Fine. Do you see yourself doing this for the next 5 years? Fine. I think those are the kind of conversations that you need to have before you now start talking about speed. Also, lastly, for a founder, be careful with investors that tries to interfere with the vision of the company. A vision bearer is a vision bearer. As an investor, you can and will never be the vision bearer, right? I mean, you've all read the story of Steve Jobs, right? How the investors took over the company, ran it down, but he still came back. And he's still the one that executed the vision of that company because he is the vision bearer. He might have made some wrong choices, right? Some wrong decisions, but he's the vision bearer. So when you see investors that wants to interfere with the vision, wants to, move their own agenda on the business, I think you should stay clear of that. Rather, you should have investors that focus on supporting the vision of the company, the vision of the founder, and also allowing the company in itself to self-evolve. In conclusion, spotting innovative business opportunities is a complex process that requires a combination of creativity, market knowledge, and strategic thinking. Businesses that are able to identify and capitalize on these opportunities have the potential to achieve significant success. Investors play a critical role in identifying and supporting innovative businesses, and they look for good parameters when making these decisions. By understanding these parameters that I've outlined above, definitely you should be able to attract investors. It's more about the person and the vision rather than the numbers. I hope I've been able to convince and not convince and not confuse you. Yes, please, if are there any questions? I think I did it faster than Siri, right? But definitely, yeah. Any questions?
I have a question for you.
Please.
Thank you so much for the presentation. One question I had honestly is, when you are scouting investors, right, one of the things I do realize can be a challenge is the buy-in of the investor. And the buy-in of the investor may be faced with barriers of preference of culture, barriers of preference of whether I want to be in this market. How do you get the buy-in of an investor that can break through any possible barrier? What are some of the barriers you are faced with getting a buy-in from an investor? And how have you been able to deal with these buy-in problems?
Okay, so, sorry, I'm very bad at it. For me to be sure I understand your question, I'll ask you back the question.
Sure, that's fine.
Right, so what you're saying is that I have a business,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get somebody to invest,
Good.
right?
I can give an example with Annabelle.
Good, please. I think an example is better.
Yeah, so with this business, for example, I want to scale it, I want to get investment into it, but then I go to somebody who doesn't understand African fashion.
Okay.
You understand? And it goes like, why would we need an African fashion wear in Primark? Or for example, how do you get that investor to buy into this?
Okay. So first and foremost, as a founder, you're in the wrong place.
Okay.
Fundamentally. So most of the time, you need to, there's square peg in square hole. Not every investor is right for every business.
Sure.
Because somebody has a lot of liquid cash in the pocket doesn't mean it's the investor for you. Most of the time. And that's one of the key challenges founders also face. So you want to pay a penalty and you're facing throwing. So you are trying to raise investments from wrong investors. They are investors, but they are wrong investors. Did you understand my point? The first question is, do you have an appetite for African fashion? Someone that doesn't like African fashion, it's very, I mean, I can sit down here and start giving you 7 million ways of becoming a millionaire. That's not, someone that doesn't have appetite for African fashion. For example, I can be speaking English, but this man is Chinese. So if I'm saying I love you, he might think I'm saying I want to kill him. It's two different languages, two different perspectives. So fundamentally, to be honest and answer that question, the founder is probably in the wrong circle. Do you get? For example, a company is a private equity fund, but they invest in growth companies that are already generating revenue. If you have a startup idea that you've not generated a pound, no matter how beautiful it is, they're not going to invest. You understand? They're not going to invest because first and foremost, it's not even in their framework, it's not in their bucket list of something that they invest in. Right? But they are private equity investors. Now, there are some people that they don't invest in growth companies. They invest in ideas. They invest in their angel investors. Once you even start making money, they won't invest. They want all those things that are fresh from school. Do you understand? Now, if I have a company that I'm already generating significant revenue, first and foremost, they don't have my ticket size. I probably will be looking for £1 million or £2 million. Do you understand? And those guys don't invest anything more than 50K because it's a dumb room kind of seed investment. So I think.
So just to understand, so that means that you should never be in a place where you are seeking buy-in.
Yes, I think as a starting point. Now, seeking buy-in, and I'm careful with that word buy-in. Buy-in is the first place, open the door, right? So you are already in front of somebody that you have buy-in. Now, when you now have the person's buy-in, these old conversations is about convincing the person that this is the right investment and you are the right person to take a bet on. Really, I think we'll say something.
Yeah, so it's almost linked to Cyril's question. I think that's what we're talking about in terms of Taiwo asking me. So if you're doing, let's use fashion for example, how do you find the investors that is the right peg? Do you understand what I mean? Because so for example, let me give it, there was something I watched on, I think it was Netflix, that it was about real estate. So they had 5 different people. The ones that invest into, say, something like Airbnb, the ones that do startups like Angel, the one that it has to be experienced, that you want to see that this. So they have different people, and that was like a jargon then. So if you come in, that gives you an opportunity of meeting all those kind of people. But whereby you're just starting a business, you don't know the investors. Mm-hmm. So how do you find the right investor that is willing to do Africa as opposed to, I just know this person is an investor, maybe I can meet them and find out that they're the wrong set of investors for that business? How do you know the kind of people that will be interested in because they have that interest or because they are looking at angel or whatever?
Okay, so traditionally, right, and when I say traditionally, I say that in huge parentheses. Traditionally, if it's a fresh idea, your first point of call is meant to be family and friends. That's traditionally. Do you understand my point? And the common saying is that get family and friends to believe in what you are doing. Charity begins at home before you go out there. However, there are some extraneous circumstances that your idea is fantastic, right? There are angel investors, there are venture capital companies. They are, by virtue of tickets, they can invest and they understand that there is nothing, it's just an idea that you want to try and convert. Now, based on the sector and based on what you want to do, there are some unique circumstances around your idea. You need to pinpoint, and I will try not to use Annabelle, because if I use Annabelle, you might not understand what I'm saying. So let me try and use another company. Let's use our water business, right? So for this kind of water type stuff, or I might look at talking to investors that invest in renewable, right? Recycling, waste management, right? So you look at what is unique to your business idea, what is germane, what is the core, and you now scout for people that operate in that space, and permit me to use the word ecosystem again, right? People that operate in that ecosystem. For example, African fashion. You can look at companies that invest maybe in Zara. Zara is very big, So maybe a type like Zara type thing. So look for funds that invest in forward fashion or green fashion or renewable, like that. And now you can now culture also plays a very significant role. The truth is, African fashion probably look for a senior executive in an oil and gas company, or somebody that just got paid his pension, or somebody that is African, right, that is very liquid. They understand Adire, they understand Ankara, they probably like it, right? You can tell them that 2 million Nigerians in Aberdeen are going to buy it in the next 5 days. They understand it. But if you are looking at a pure Scottish person, right, that he is not, is the wrong buyer. So to answer your question, traditionally, family and friends, but outside that, look for what is unique and germane at the core of the business, and look for people in that ecosystem, right?
So just a follow-up question. So are we saying that, and I think that leads to serious question, culturally, for example, how do you break that barrier? Are we saying from a functional, realistic perspective that's impossible to, or are we saying that there's a way you can communicate it that, just like what the guy said, for example, I'm sure, we was talking about how many of the foreigners eat snail, but they were able to buy into that idea that whatever that is, it sounds quite interesting and different. So again, it's how do you break that cultural barrier in terms of getting someone that may not be of that your ecosystem, but getting them to think about what you're...
Okay. So I would not like to use the word break the barrier, right? But I would look at the stage you are in. For example, things are easier. I don't know what snail is. I don't know what African fashion is. But if somebody walks up to me and says, I'm doing African fashion, but I revenued £1 million last year. So I'm a Scottish guy. I don't know what African fashion is. I don't like it. I don't know it. I don't believe in it. Okay, ask for your numbers. Ask for bank statements. Ask for your financial statements. Do you understand? And purely on the back of that. But you see, when it is a fresh idea, when it's off the tab, the conversation is different. It's the conversation about the Series A, Series B, there is IPO, there are different stages. It's about checking the stage you're in, look at what is unique to your business, and look at the funders that are fit for that. Do you understand my point? Now, this is 80% of the curve. There are some extreme circumstances of somebody that just won a lottery and just likes the kind of air you are wearing and cuts a check for your business idea. That happens, but I will not base an analysis on that. Those are extreme circumstances. And that maybe since we're in church, that's a place for prayer and faith. But I'm not going to place my. I'm very sorry. I have faith, but that's.
Thank you so much. I have a question. When it comes to negotiating percentage with an investor, what's okay and what's ridiculous? What's the margin? Because from my experience back home, there was a time I was trying to raise funds. I was pitching with an investor for my cassava processing plant. And I passed the first stage, passed the second stage, everything looked good until the investor asked what I was offering, and I offered 30%, and it looked like it was, as in it's ridiculous. And the investor was actually asking for 70%. So when you're negotiating, how do you...
First and foremost, that's the wrong investor. I'm happy I covered it earlier on in what I said. It's not like all investors that will say. However, I will recommend this book for you. It's called The Founder's Dilemma. There's something called The Founder's Dilemma, and in 2 seconds I will explain it. The Founder's Dilemma is, as a founder, there's a dilemma. You know the typical saying, owning 100% of Zero and owning 1% of Microsoft. Most of the times, founders also bootstrap. We call it bootstrapping. They bootstrap their business. You want to keep all the equity, you want to keep all the ownership to yourself. But if you don't bring in investors, that company is not going to grow, right? So it's a founder's dilemma. Obviously, you also don't want to lose the business because you are the vision bearer. Negotiating, how do you negotiate? That's a very generic question because it depends on the business. I don't know what the numbers of the cassava processing plant was, right? I don't know what stage it was, but definitely as a founder, a singular investor that wants to take 70% of the company is exactly the definition of an investor that I don't want in my company. Now, there is also context. Most investors in Nigeria are mad people, sorry, they are not okay. Honestly speaking, that climb it's a very toxic climb, right? And obviously it's quite evident in what we see nowadays, right? So I would not like to use the Nigerian context as a very good example. However, right, if I'm sitting on the other side and I want to invest in a cassava processing plant, right, I'm not going to ask for 70%. What I will ask for is I will ask for what we call significant minority. I will ask for maybe a 25%, right? But I would ensure that I'm in on your recruitment of your accountants, you have proper corporate governance, your reporting is on point, right? I control cost. I set up a training budget for your staff to increase the quality of your team. Do you understand? And you can't sell any of your shares without my permission. So you can't dilute me. So these are the kind of things that I would ask for if I'm sitting on the other side of the table. But you see, we are in a jungle. Nigeria is a jungle. So now, the guy asking for 70% probably knows that no bank is going to lend you money. He probably knows that you're not going to get any money anywhere. So it's a very difficult question to answer because of the Nigerian context. Which is why, Asiwaju can win an election. You understand what I'm saying? But if you're in a sinner climb like this, right, the parameters are a little bit more predictable, right? And there are more interesting conversations and flexibilities to have, right, around that. Have I been able to stylishly answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's very simple and straight to the point. Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation and all that. So I want to quickly find out, when we talk in terms of getting investor, is there a website, is there a place you can actually go source for them? I know, is there a kind of profile, if after you've been able to get a list of investors, you've been able to see these people, is there a profile or something that you can, to know if this is the right person for my business, to know if this person actually will buy into what I have as an idea or something? Do we have stuff like that?
Okay, so that's another very wide question. Based on your business and your idea, right, there are different categories of investors. You have angel investors. Angel investors is you just slept and woke up, had a dream, and you wrote it on a piece of paper, and you went to meet them to invest. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they make a lot of money. They make a lot of money. They make their returns. For example, angellist.co.uk, right? The first 1,000, Uber was one of their first 1,000 pitches that went on the portal, right? Now, for every $1,000 that was invested in Uber at the time, my numbers are not right, but I think they made 10,000x. They made about 200 times their money. So if I sat on AngelList and I was investing $1,000 in each of the businesses that came on AngelList, and just Uber succeeded, I would have made about 20 times money. You get, so they also make their money, but that's angel investors. Now you have venture capital, and within that venture capital, there are like 5 different stages. Some people will do pre-seed, some people will do seed, some people will do Series A and Series B. Right? It depends on the level your business is. Now, there are organizations, for example, Africa Private Equity Venture Capital Association, London Private Equity Capital Association. So there are members of those organizations that are venture capitalists. So you can get a list of companies from there. There's also this website, angellist.co.uk, right? I've just checked it in the website. I'm not getting the website right, but I'll look for it and give it to you. Those are angel investors. So it depends on the stage of your business, the stage that you are at. And you could also look at sectors. If you're looking at food, right? You can narrow down to see venture capital companies that invest in food, you're right, bioengineering, and all that, right? So then LinkedIn, right? Using LinkedIn, I hear LinkedIn has gone gaga now. That's there's almost nothing you can achieve on LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn is also a tool. I don't know how but I know it's definitely a tool where I know a couple of guys that raised significant funding just by exploring LinkedIn. So I think these are the sources. It's a very wide question. It depends. The question is like how long is a shoestring? Just it depends on a lot of things. Yeah, have I been able to answer the question? Thank you very much. So thank you very much for your time. I hope I've been able to